Alright, let's see if this works. So I got a question on Sniper side on why all the low power variable scopes that we see have such a small objective, 20 millimeter, 24 millimeter. Couple going up to 30 now, but still not hugely common. There is a technical reason why. It doesn't mean it's impossible, it just sort of means it's expensive, and there are compromises that you may or may not want to make, right? And most scopes that I've seen, I don't necessarily want to make that compromise yet, but we might, right? So here's basically what the scope looks like. We've all seen a scope for a low power variable. We've got something that looks roughly like this. This is being the eyepiece, right? You'll have your magnification ring somewhere down here, right? You've got your basic turrets, elevation, and side here somewhere. And it's, as I've done in some videos already, a good way to think about the three optical systems are in there. That is roughly from here to here. This is the objective lens system. Roughly from here to about here, right under the magnification ring, is the erector, right? And the last one, what you're looking at, your eye is looking through here, is the eyepiece. If I give my drawing and my handwriting, I'm an engineer, not an artist. Anyhow, so what's here? If you're talking about the objective lens system, it's basically kind of like a lens on a camera. You have some lenses here, right, that take the light coming in. Your field of view is like this. There's some angle alpha there, something, right? And this whole light comes in and it gets focused into a front focal plane, somewhere right under the turrets. Call this front focal plane, where the objective forms an image, right? Then your erector system, which has usually multiple lenses. I'll just show the two lenses, one here, one here. Maybe I should use a different color for lenses. In this case, let's use green. So there are a couple lenses here and here that take this image that is created by the objective in the front focal plane and do weird shit to it and recreate it looking a little bit differently sized, usually bigger, in the second focal plane, right? So this is your second focal plane, right? That's here, okay? And then there are some more lenses in the eyepiece, right? And there's, usually 3 or 4 lenses, sometimes more. We'll call them purple, like this. And they take this image, split it out, and it goes to your eye. This is your eye, okay? These 3 optical systems have to work together, right? And there are some things, some aberrations, some other things you can fix as you go through it, but there are some fundamentals that can't be ignored. So now we'll talk about, we'll focus on the objective lens system, right? If you look at the image created at the focal plane, now imagine none of this is here, you just have the objective and you're just looking at the image. It's basically a round image of a certain size, and it shows whatever the scope is looking at, okay? Here is an interesting thing. When you change your magnification, right? When you change your magnification and all these lenses in the erector system move around with respect to each other, what happens is that you are changing how much of this image created by the objective lens system you sample, right? Assuming all the adjustments are straight on, if you look at a high let's say this is a 1 to 4 power scope, right? At 4 power, you're looking at a small image. This is all you're looking at. At 4x, you're getting this. Then the erector system magnifies it, makes it bigger. It's a little bit bigger in the second focal plane, right? And that's what you got. On 1 power, you're looking at a much larger portion of the image. The portion that is, in terms of diameter, is 4 times bigger, right? So you've got roughly this much of the image is what you are sampling on 1x, right? So you've got your much wider field of view, but less magnification, right? Because the erector system will take this image at 1x and invert it, do some other things with it, but the image it creates in second focal plane is roughly the same size, approximately. Some doesn't have to be, but it usually is roughly the same size. Okay, so the image that the objective lens creates has to be large enough to allow this zoom ratio, right? And if you've got a scope that's not a 1:4, let's say 1:8, then the ratio in sizes between the image it samples at front focal plane at 8 power is even twice smaller than this, right? Okay, so I hope that's okay. Right, now let's think a little bit how basic lens works, right? So I've got this objective lens system. I'll recreate it here. I'm just showing two lenses. There's usually more. Some light comes in, and I recreate and I make this image, okay? The size of the image that I created depends on the focal length, FL, on the focal length of the objective lens system, meaning basically how far away from here you are. All right? If you decide to just bump up the objective lens diameter without making the focal length longer, what you're going to end up with, okay, let's say I decide to use a larger lens here. Same focal length, right? Same image size, but now the angles going in are really steep. Much steeper than here, right? So you have to bend light a lot more. If you bend light a lot more, two things happens. One is you start picking up aberrations, but another problem, and in this case a bigger problem, because aberrations would be like within certain range, we kind of know how to fix them. What starts happening is you go through a much faster F number. F number is the ratio of the diameter here, or the limiting stop, in this case just the diameter in the front, to the focal length, right? So if this is, let's say, an F4 system, if you double the objective diameter, it becomes an F2 system, meaning the diameter of the lenses compared to the focal length is twice bigger. Your depth of field is inversely proportional to that. Meaning is that the larger the diameter you've got for the same focal length, the shallower your depth of field is going to be, right? So you start running into issues with depth of field. Before that, when you had a nice small objective, everything is kind of in focus. Now you start have to adding side focus and sorts of other things, and you're battling aberrations, which really gets tricky. So the natural question is, okay, so let's make it a little bit longer, and we avoid all these issues with the low F number, low depth of field system. But now you start running into another issue, right? Let's say I make this system longer, large lenses. Now instead of forming the image here, I form it here, right? So now the angles got better. They are less severe angles, right? Now my focal length is longer, so the angles are less severe, but for the same field of view, now I'm ending up with a much larger image. Okay? So this image has to be contained in the tube, right? And all the erector lenses have to also get bigger to be able to sample a larger image at low power, right? And if I have a high erector ratio system, like a 1:8, 8 power erector or 10 power, whatever else, the ratio of small field of view to large field of view becomes larger. Now all of this has to somehow fit in a scope tube, right? So let's say you take your favorite 1:8 by 24 scope, and bump up the objective and make objective lengths longer. So now your erector system is going to have to get longer and larger in diameter. And remember, the rest of this image here is used up by windage and elevation adjustments, right? When you adjust your windage or elevation, this whole image circle kind of moves around inside the limit of the image created by the objective lens system. So all of that has to be accommodated. So it's not like you can just bump up the objective lens system and end up with a scope that's roughly the same size, just larger objective. Everything starts growing. Everything starts getting longer. Everything starts getting bigger diameter. Everything starts getting heavier. You've got bigger lenses inside now. Well, these lenses need to be mounted. These lenses need to be mounted in such a way that recoil does not throw them out of the alignment, doesn't get them loose. So the mounting fixtures start getting bigger. Right, you have lock rings, you have glue, you have the erector is a tube inside the tube, so that has to be prevented from bouncing all over the place. You just made it heavier, it has more inertia, you have to work harder. So the overall package starts getting exponentially more complicated. Are there ways to work around this? Yeah, but they're expensive and they cost money, right? If you went to somebody and asked them to make you a scope with a larger objective, short focal length, fairly lightweight, well, that's March, right? And we all know that with March scopes, they sacrifice the depth of field. That's the compromise. And on the inside, they're fairly complicated. You don't want to sacrifice depth of field. It's going to be larger, and it's going to be heavier, and it's going to be harder to use. You can mitigate that to a certain degree with better design, but to a certain degree only. No one has yet outlawed the laws of physics, and that you still have that issue. Okay. All right. Let me know if any of these ramblings make sense. This stuff is unscripted. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. And now I'm going to look at the video, see if any of this crap made sense, and if the microphone recorded it.